Hey, hello everybody. All right, so, okay. I get a lot of versions of this type of question. Now, if we were in a classroom right now, I'll bet you that a lot of the class, we're in a classroom of, sort of beginner guitar players. You're moving your way up to the, intermediate ship of guitar playing. And you're all sitting there and everybody wants to ask a question, but nobody wants to sort of be that person. And all of a sudden, someone raised their hand. Ray, it's all great and dandy, and I kind of get it and everything about the soloing, but what notes am I allowed to play? And more importantly, what notes, like how do I know what notes to begin the solo with? Right? And then everybody else in the class is like, oh, thank God somebody asked that question. All right. So I'm going to answer that question and more right now. Okay, so now look, this is where in your guitar journey you get to one of those junctions in the road that you really have to know some theory to continue on, right? Now, if you don't, then what you're going to be limited to, and there's nothing wrong with this because I know people like this, that whatever Google tells you, you want to learn your favorite guitar solo of your favorite song, you go and Google it and it gives you the tabs or, whatever, diagrams of some sort, and you're going to memorize them note for note. And then almost like a robot, like you're going to put it into your memory. And then when the song plays, you're going to go exactly to that part and play that note. And you may not even know what notes you're playing. You just got to know, oh, it's, 7th fret, the D string. So it's, numbers, number 12, 14, 12, 15, 12, 14, 12, 15. And, that's how you learn it. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. Okay? I know someone that can play all kinds of solos from your favorite songs, and you think this is the best guitar player I've ever seen. The only problem is that's all he knows. So if you ask him to, hey, can you play this for me over that? Like they're lost because they don't know the notes, okay? And I'm not saying everybody's like that studies and memorizes. I'm just saying that there are people that completely go off of memory as opposed to fretboard knowledge and instinct, right? Okay, so the first thing is, we need to know what's in this song if we can, right? So in this case, all I told you was A minor. So, look, the chords after the A minor were F, C, and G. So A minor, F, C, G. And the backing track that I'm playing to is courtesy of my friend at My Backing Track right here on YouTube. So My Backing Tracks, they got all kinds of backing tracks, different beat per minute. And if you're starting out, I recommend selecting something slow. But go check out their page. They've got some really good quality backing tracks for you to practice over, okay? And tell them I sent you. So thanks to My Backing Tracks. All their info will be down in the description as well. So thanks to My Backing Tracks, first and foremost. So we have an A minor, we have an F, a C, and a G. So we often say, okay, well, whatever key it's in, we're going to play the note of that key. So key of A, chord of A, note of A. But in this case, it's A minor. All right, so no problem, Ray, I got it, because we're in the key of A minor because that's the first chord. Well, no, not quite, because if we were in the key of A minor, right, we would have A minor, and then we would have this kind of weird chord that really nobody knows how to play, and it's a B diminished, okay? Then we would have a C major, D minor, E minor, okay? You get it. So none of those chords are what we're playing. So it can't be in the key of A minor. But because A minor is the first chord, we can actually play off the A. Now, we did that in the intro, and I'm just going to quickly do it again just to show you that it can be done. So let's start this backing track from my backing tracks, and we'll play off the A, right? Right? So far, so good. Right? So that's one option. Who cares what the other chords are? It all sounds good with the A. All right, so that leads to the question, well, why? Well, okay, so it's a pretty simple answer, and I'm going to give you this time around a generic sort of reasoning why. Okay, so in the key of A, all right, or the chord of A, or whatever, the A scale, we have the notes A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and back to A. Okay, the next chord is an F, and the notes in the F are F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G would be the octave, right? And then we have the chord of C, and the notes in the C scale are C, D, E, F, G, A, right? B, and back to C. And then, of course, we have G, and the notes there are G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So we have an A note in all of those, and anything that we play off of our A, so in this case it might be A, B, D, E, those notes are also in the chords that we're playing over, okay? Now, that means that anytime you play those notes over any of those chords, you'll sound okay. You'll sound good. But in order to sound great, we got to start eliminating the good that aren't as good and keep the exceptional notes. And you know what? That'll just drive you nuts. Like, that would do your head in trying to figure out, like, you've just got thrown at you 4 chords and you want to play over it like that, and you're going to start sitting there figuring out what notes are better than others. So the quick and easy way is to use the triad method, meaning chords are made up of the first, third, and fifth notes. So if we just take those first, third, and fifth, right, of each chord and see what we got. And as you can see, I put a diagram together here, right? And it shows each chord that we're going to play over in our progression and what those 1, 3, 5 notes are. And we're going to take a look at them, right? And as you can see, there's some notes that are appearing multiple times, some notes twice, and then a couple of other notes only one time. So that tells me, right, if I was wanting to sound the best, that I would try to concentrate and play most of the notes whenever I can that appear multiple times, because that'll give me the strongest sounding, well, glue to hold all this together. I'm sure you feel that makes sense, right? Now, those other notes that are only once, that we might only hear them, that's fine. They work, right? And the more strong notes we have, and then we have the odd not so strong but not bad notes, we're still going to sound really good. So that's one way to look at it, right? Now, this is usually done, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise, until you get to a real specific high level on the guitar or, any instrument, you got to prepare. So, if you're preparing to go in and play a solo to accompany someone at an event, or, play along to your favorite song, you're going to do research. You have to. You got to find out what key your song's in, what chords are they at. And then I would do exactly this. I would find out the 1, 3, 5 notes of each chord that you want to play over, and simply try to play those chords that appear more often. Okay? So that's something to keep in mind, right? That's a sure way of sounding good. And then the rest is developing your technique so that you can play through those notes in a very orderly and quick fashion. You can change where you play those notes on the fretboard to give more tonal structure, and you can have some fun with it and make it sound absolutely mint. So that's the basics to what notes do we play. Okay? Well, again, to wrap it up, it helps to know the key. And then if you know the chords, it's a bonus, right? But even if you just know the key, and in this case, the key was C, then we can base everything off the C. And as you saw from the diagram, right, there happened to be 3 C's. Out of the 4 chords, 3 of them had C's that were in the 1, 3, 5s. So that tells me C's a very strong note. And then the other one was, of course, the A's and G's that had 2 each. Well, and the E's. So, we had some options in that chord progression. And every chord progression will be different. There's probably some that you'll see 3 and 4 notes. You'll see a note for every, the same note for every chord in your progression. Well, that's a bonus because then that's your go-to note, right? Okay. So the other things that we can do around or to sound, good or whatever, really come from experimentation, right? So in this case, we're armed with this new information. We know what notes are going to sound better. So let's have some fun over my backing track here, okay? It's not mine. That's the name of the channel, My Backing Tracks. So let's give it a whirl, okay? I'm going off the C. So you notice I try to begin and end on the note that I want to use, that I want it to be my key note. Right? That definitely helps. So now all I've done is I'm still really doing the same thing. I'm just putting more emphasis on the C's, right? And try to play them as much as I can because they come up the most, in our diagram. Okay, so let's just wrap up what we learned today. So we learned that we can play really any note from the scale of the chords that we're playing over. And more often than not, the notes are all entwined with the chords. So multiple times you'll see, in this case C, the C note was part of 3 of the chords in our 4-chord progression. So that would tell me that that's a really, really important note. And as it turns out, it's all relevant because the first chord was A minor, so the relative major is C. So I don't think it's a coincidence that there were 3 comparable C notes over those chords that we could play, and that when we keyed off the C, so we made C that note that we started and ending on, I kind of think the A wasn't bad, but I think the C sounded a little better, right? All right, and that's how it's done. And the rest of it is depending on what level you're at with this, okay? So, don't get intimidated by someone who has been doing this for 20 years, and you feel inferior. Well, yeah, you're going to be inferior to them. And that's the way it is, right? So don't, obviously, I always am pretty protective of things like that. Don't let anyone like that put you down just because you're not on the same level. The information that you are establishing and using to work on your skills is the same information that they're using. But you know what? You know your information. They may not. They may just be someone who only copies and memorizes tabs. And they, when it comes down to it, don't have that little extra knowledge that you have to be able to, what I call freewheel. So that means that you can put on a chord progression or a song and you could play your own version of riffs and solos, and even though they're not what's on the record or whatever, still are going to sound really good. And that's because you know your theory, right? And there's a difference between someone who knows their theory and someone who doesn't, right? And the rest is just the physicality of doing it, of putting that theory to test. I mean, it happens with me. I mean, there's certain elements of guitar that I don't really use that much, but I feel obligated to show and explain it to followers that want to go there and take it to another level. But like, I'm not really good when I demonstrate it because it's just not in my wheelhouse. I mean, you can't, unless you're a lifetime devotee of the guitar, or you're, unless you're a devotee of the guitar, you're not going to know everything there is to know about guitar. You're not going to be able to play every type of style, every type of, scale and technique. It's just not going to happen unless you dedicate the appropriate amount of lifetime to learn those skills beyond just beginner's level. So some of the things that I do or I show you, I'm showing you from a beginner's level because it's not in my wheelhouse, right? And I might stumble through it here and there, but whatever. I know that if I really had to, and I thought, okay, so I got to play with someone who I have to do this in 2 weeks, I could sit down, put my nose to the grindstone, and sound what I need to be in 2 weeks, right? So I hope that answers that further question, because I do have a lot of stuff on my channel about starting with soloing and identifying chords and notes and things like that. But sometimes, well, a lot of times with me, when I was learning, when I heard things explained differently, maybe the third or fourth time, or maybe the 10th or 11th time, it actually, wow, the light bulb went on. So that's why I kind of keep coming at you guys with sometimes the same sort of stuff, but presented differently. Because, again, we all learn differently. And I think it's important to explain things differently and let people decide how they want to learn, right? Okay, so again, thank you so much for your ongoing support, and really much appreciated. And, we're continuously growing onwards and upwards. And remember, every Tuesday, I'm live at 2 p.m. North American Eastern Time. That's 11 a.m. on the North American West Coast. And it's 7 p.m. over in Britain. So wherever you live, in and around or between there, you do the math and figure out what time that is, okay? So that's every Tuesday, and it gives you an opportunity to ask questions, and we go through a lesson, and, there's always something to talk about, right? And it's for everybody, beginners and up. You can lurk, you can ask questions. We'll talk about some complicated stuff, but we'll also just talk about simple, easy beginner guitar as well. Okay? Because that's what I'm all about. All right. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you soon. Happy practicing. Don't forget to visit my backing tracks on YouTube. They got some good stuff, and we're going to end out this video by playing to that great backing track that we used in the video. I'm off the A, right? Let's switch to C. Back to A.